Prof. Mutombo will join us shortly, but just while we are, just a few things. In terms of the parking, I'm sure all of you now are sorted. If you haven't given your keys to the security, they will need your keys, especially with, double parking. Did you sort it? Okay. Okay, cool. And then, yeah, welcome. Welcome. And thank you very much for being here this morning. We may expect, I think maybe just one or two more people. But today is really a continuation of a conversation that we started yesterday. And so, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Elizabeth Horn-Peterson, and I'm the Executive Director of the South African Faith and Family Institute. The events, today's conversation, there's a YouTube link. So, and Saffi is quite intentional about keeping our work sacred. So it's only people who have the link that would be able to, to sort of interact with our content in general. So I would have probably sent you the link if there's, people that you believe might find this useful, for their work and so forth. So, but otherwise it is just us that's in the room, and Prof. Mutombo will join us online. And so that is the conversation that we have today. And so yesterday, I think it's the first time that we kind of boldly, courageously name men as a resource in addressing intimate partner abuse whilst cultivating Ubunto in intimate relationships. And for those of you who have been journeying with Saffi, you would know our own evolution, right? We are growing, we are evolving. There's different dimensions to our work, and the quest really is about, we have to respond to the women who find themselves in abusive relationships, who have from the onset consistently said, we need help for the man, for the abuser. And like I said yesterday, we have ignored in many ways a lot of the work that is currently going on around domestic violence intervention and gender-based violence, have largely ignored what victim survivor women have been saying. And so what governments and legislations and the gender-based violence, most of the service providers have actually told women, no, we know what you need. If you want to be safe, you have to either shut up or you have to get up and go. So we will create laws. And yes, there will be help, but it is help that we believe what you need. So you must go and lay a charge, you must do this, you must do that, etc., etc. And I think I am consistently moved. I still remember very clearly my first days of when I started to work in 1993, and looking at those women and children coming to the shelter and their lives uprooted. And then we support them, or I always say they empowered themselves under conditions where they now had to uproot themselves and their children. And then after a couple of months, they've empowered themselves. But now there's nowhere to go, because the laws didn't take into account, the domestic violence laws did not take into account that if they are serious about her safety and giving her options, which includes housing, that the housing laws would have to speak to that as well. And the Marriage Act and the Divorce Act would have to speak to that as well. And so we have placed more and more burden over the years on women, because I have seen women in the shelter that consistently have to go back, even if they did not want to go back, because they didn't have anywhere to go. And so while we are doing incredible work over the years, you know, and we really have to acknowledge that, and also to say that, yes, there's a lot more interventions that is needed for victims, survivors, and women. But there's a critical piece that is missing, and that is what Saffi seeks to bring to the center of our conversations, and also through our work with religious leaders and faith communities and others, to say we need to be intentional about looking at men as a resource in the one hand, but also there are many men who live their lives affirming dignity as a natural way of being. And so some of you would know we have the Men Affirming Dignity Initiative, that exhibition, and we've been using that exhibition, and it's powerfully been going around and providing a space for people to begin to put the focus and just talk a little bit, draw the attention from the public profiling, dominant profiling of black and African men as largely violent and abusive. So the MAD initiative draws our attention to African men who's been affirming dignity as a natural way of being. And so Saffi uses that particular initiative to also help us to begin to look at what might be, how might the MAD initiative be a resource when we have to work with men who do abuse their intimate partners. Okay, and so yesterday, like I said, we kind of boldly stepped out and called it Men as a Resource in addressing gender-based violence, intimate partner abuse. And we know that that's kind of, people kind of like, they frown on that a little bit. But we at the same time say we're not here to romanticize men. You know, we're not here to romanticize, but we are here to say there are critical things that we need to look at, and there may be very important things that we need to hear that would assist us as we work with women, as we work with men who abuse. And so today I'm so honored, really, truly honored to have these extraordinary people that has been doing this work for so long. So Caroline Peters, we will be co-facilitating this space, and many of you have seen her, know her presence, and sort of very intentional, clear presence in, you know, in the community and gender-based violence work. She'll tell us more about her work. For me, I'm particularly grateful that finally we have somebody like Caroline that's on the National Council on Gender-Based Violence in South Africa. She was just recently elected, recommended, but also through quite a rigorous process, you know, of interviews and the public had to recommend and whatever, that she's there. So I feel we are covered, and you will hear when she introduces herself and her work. And the other three people that are really special, Marcel Lond. Oh, I mean, the phenomenon, Marcel Lond. That's what she is. Extraordinary person who has been doing this work when nobody, in the 80s, early 80s, no? Nobody wanted, imagine, we didn't even have proper laws around domestic violence yet. And Marcel Lond, as a social worker, she will tell her own story, but I need to say this, how she pierced into and she broke open this whole idea that children has to just be removed and ignore the parents. And she kind of cracked into that space, and she brought the parents into the center and started to recognize the need for interventions with perpetrators. And Marcel is our icon. She's really another living library forest of insights and wisdom when it comes to this particular work. And so, Marcel, I'm so deeply honored that you are here. I know that people like Marcel are often the ones that wants to just stay, they hide, you know, because we go through a lot when we actually genuinely respond to God's call. And when God calls us to something that is a bitchy hectic, man. Erg. Can't the Lord sometimes just call us to just like liquor things? No, normal. So we understand. So you understand my gratitude for Marcel being here. And then, of course, Prof. Mdende, another powerhouse. It's the same thing around African traditional religion and how she's been ostracized over the years and still, you know, but pressing on. And so she's here. And then Prof. Mutombo, who you will also hear, he was a life, I was guided to him, like literally divinely guided to him while I was struggling with my PhD. And so another huge phenomenon, you know, in terms of Afrocentricity and just all of his work. So you'll hear more about their CVs, you know, as we will go about today, and when you hear the inputs. And yeah, so it will be a conversation. So I welcome you all here into the space. We will hear from each one of you as well. And I just want to ask Ashwin, is there anything in terms of just protocols that you need to share? And welcome, Mutombo, you are there. I'm happy to see you. It's very, very late or early. I don't know, it's like 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock, where Prof. Mutombo is. So we pray for specific capacity, you know, that the Lord would give you lots of strength and capacity. Okay. And then, Ashwin, are you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Right.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everybody. Greetings, morning. Good morning, Prof. Tombo, to everyone present.
Thank you.
I'm just here to make sure that everyone is safe, and that you know that Saffi has your safety first before anything else. So in the case of an emergency, anything should happen, a marshal from the Cape Town Lodge will come, and they will assist us in escorting us to the necessary emergency exits. The toilet is here inside, which is a shared bathroom. If it is that, then I'll just probably direct you to the bathroom that's in the foyer as you came in, past the robotics conference happening there. There's also a bathroom on your left and right. If you're busy turning around, you'll find it there as well. So that's about everything else. Yeah. Thank you, Doc. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashwin. Can I continue? No, before we do introductions, can we please ask Nita to ground us and bring us into the space? Thank you, Nita.
Good morning. So I'm just going to take you through a short little reflection just to bring us to a place of presence. So I'm going to invite you to just sit comfortably, just allowing your body to relax in your chair, becoming aware of your breath. And for the next little while, let me just focus on my breath. As I breathe in, let me breathe in pure intention, peace, silence internally. And as I breathe out, I release anything old, anything stuck that I might be holding. And so imagine your breath as being the breath of life, reviving, recharging, renewing your inner space. And as you let go, just relax and just settle further into your meditation space. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Mother Earth supports us, nurtures us, sustains us. And so as I connect to this beautiful, powerful energy, let me feel supported in that way. Not just by Mother Earth, but the presence of the divine. And so in the quietness of my mind, where I only hold pure and benevolent thoughts and feelings, I invite that divine presence into this space, into my heart, so that I remain connected to what is important. I remain connected to what is true. But most importantly, I hold on to compassion, love, and benevolence. And so let me just internalize this for a moment for myself and create this as a focus as we engage in this morning's discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Nita. So it's always exciting for me to get to the who's in the room. I love people, and I love to know, I've always been curious. Wie doen wat? Wie is waar? That's always been it's my curiosity, yes. So I'm going to invite everyone, but please, not 10 minutes each, if we can keep it short. I would say a minute each, 2 minutes at most, to introduce yourself, who you are, what do you do, also kom vandaan, what brings you to the space, etc. Welcome, good morning. So I'll start with me. My name is Caroline Peters. I'm an African feminist and a human rights defender. I am the founder of an organization called the Colors Foundation. It's a feminist principled organization. We are based in Bridgetown in Athlone on the Cape Flats. Our work is intersectional around food insecurity, access to justice, challenging inequality, systemic issues. We run a program for boys. We do preventative work. We do a program with boys. Our boys programs is now also in schools, which I'm very excited about. We started only the boys club once a week. We now do boys work in 3 different schools in the area. We do human rights clubs, so that is clubs open for everyone. That is also in the schools. If you had to ask me many years ago, Marcel, I said women, a few years ago, women must do the work with women and men must do the work with men. So just to quickly digress, I just said to Marcel, I always looked at her and I thought, she's so tough to work with men, We admired and look up to you because you were the only one working with perpetrators. Wow, how tough that was. And so, so a few years ago, 3 years ago, we started the work with boys, and then a year ago, we started the work with men, And now I'm the chairperson for Men Engage South Africa, I'm leading organizations that work in the sector of men, the work with men. So we do that. We do psychosocial therapy. We do one-on-one. We do group work. And I'm not sure why, but most of our clients this year in psychotherapy has been boys and young boys. And we find more and more boys on the Cape Flats affected affected by, because of the violence. And I said to someone the other day, the diary is full of boys. And for some reason, our work has shifted to work with the boys. And then we have, we also do the work. We advocate for non-custodial measures for women in conflict with the law, but that ties in with our food insecurity work. We work in a precinct where Athlone Magistrates Court has got the highest amount of female offenders in this country. So we work with, it was a project that was piloted with us through UN Women about 5 years ago. And so we continue that work because women, we're saying if we criminalize a woman that has shoplifted food, we criminalize poverty. So we advocate for non-custodial or alternative measures to custodial measures. We do training and facilitation for GBV first responders. But that's a bit of who we are. I'm not going to hog the time. So that is who I am, and I'm excited to be here. And I just want to say we are having conversations today. But let's not be, we can be very comfortable. And I want to ask us to be as open, as honest. This is a safe space, it's a brave space. Let's call it a brave space. Be brave and be bold here today, let's be intentional. We come here to listen, but also willing to be challenged. So thank you. That's me in my opening words. I'm going to start on the end there. Yeah, the mic is there, and then we can move the mic around. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Martin. I work for Saffi. Prior to that, I've been working for an organization called St. Anne's Homes, which is a shelter for abused women and children. And I was there for a couple of 18 years. So now I've recently joined Saffi, and looking forward to what the future holds. Yeah.
Good morning. I'm Esther Moses, a pastor in Atlantis. My background is NICRO. I used to work for NICRO as a social auxiliary worker, offenders and ex-offenders and youth in conflict with the law. But when our offices closed down in 2011, I just fell back into the community working with gangsters, so that's one of my things in Atlantis. And then I'm a radio presenter for 22 years, having programs from every Sunday morning 9 to 10, unraveling the dynamics of family. That's what I'm doing there. And on a Wednesday, I'm also doing from 1 to 2, Heartbeat of the Community, deal with all the social ills in our community. And then I'm a victim support volunteer at the local SEPs. I've been there from 2000. Yes, so that's who I am. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther.
A very good morning to everybody. I'm Warrant Officer Kuchlenberg from Marari Police Station in Kailicha. You know what a beautiful opportunity, and I want to make use of it just to say thank you very much for having me here this morning. Because what we're going to learn here today, we're just going to put in our toolbox, move forward and take back. Just want to give you a small what I'm doing. I'm the coordinator for victim support, domestic violence in GBV. Everybody coming to our office, it's not too small, it's not too big. We deal what we are getting there. Lot of cases, beautiful topic making, we normally call it root cause, but I see it's been changed as a resource, the men. Beautiful for me. Everything coming in, women down and out already, don't want to open cases, withdraw cases, making use of my office, where I'm taking them personally to court to apply for a protection order. I'm taking them personally to counseling centers, booking them myself, and walking the road with them. And as we all know, you can only do your boundary. If you are out, but we do follow-ups a lot. And I just had a week ago a tough conversation with my sub-district commander to ask me, why is your GBV cases so high? And I said to them, Brigadier, proudly I can stand here and say, I'm going to the community to urge them to come and report. And I spoke on Monday in my crime meeting and said to the person working with it, draw me, do me an analysis to prove what I'm saying. And it's like that. The more we go out to the community to preach and get them aboard and pull their plasters, this is what we are doing in our RACPS. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Xolile Ngcobo. I am a founder of an organization or company called the Well Health Company. It's a social enterprise company. And I do my work mainly on gender equality and social inclusion. My recent project that I've worked on was on the localization of the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide, where I was fortunate enough to support the Department of Women in their quest to get everyone to start doing something on gender-based violence, or even responding to the indicators as they are listed in the national document. So I've worked across 15 national departments in the past 3 years, about 257 municipalities, and the TVET colleges. Also had work in magistrates' courts, specifically the ones for domestic violence, sexual offenses, maintenance, and divorces. And then the universities, of course, higher learning institutions are also a very critical area where we've tried to help with the institutionalization or localization of the NSP, and have various private sector examples as well where I have worked. One being with Exaro, which is a mining company, which for me really represent how if you can walk a journey with a company, they actually will realize that GPV also happens, and they need to put measures in place, not only to prevent, but to also deal with things that are already existing. So that was a very eye-opening journey. But I also had experiences with working with civil society organization. There is this perception that only the saints work for civil society organizations. But I was actually surprised I'm still surprised even now in my journey with some of the civil society organizations, where you find that there's not even a policy on sexual harassment, yet sexual harassment happens daily. So I'm more like a technical person that will come and assist and work with you. But I'm also a very active in terms of advocating and talking and getting myself in positions where I can influence. I've recently coined a concept around quiet influencing, and had an opportunity to track the 10 years of my company and place it in positions where I had contributed quietly to significant change and impact. And I'm actually trying now to have this conversation with more people around, have you reflected on where you have been contributing? It might not be a big bang, but it must be something that has shifted something, and let's look at those things. Yeah, so thank you.
My name is Valerie Haman. I work at Nehemiah Bible Institute within Kuleleku, my colleague here. And we develop courses for pastors and church leaders, but we also have a prison ministry division. So personally, I've been involved with prison ministry for over 16 years, and I've published 11 books which are used in 96% of prisons throughout South Africa. I also develop other courses in my own time, like crimes against children, and pedophiles is one of the main topics that I write about, because there's always help for the children, but there's never help for the pedophiles. So I like to do that, and then my other books are basically based on life skills, and I'll hand over to Lekuna. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. I'm Gurleko Pelem. I work for Nehemiah Bible Institute. We are based in Wellington. So I've been with the company now for 10 years. We focus on the grassroots level, where most of the time we target most of the church leaders who've never had any formal training in terms of church ministry and leadership. So I facilitate, communicate with churches in different areas, and also look for organizations or institutions who might not have the courses, or then we assist them with that as well. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. No, no, you can, no. Yes, you've got half an hour. You're going to speak later, You've got 30 minutes, and then we'll formally introduce you.
Good morning, everyone. Name's Adrian Paris and currently serves as a minister at the Assemblies of God in Strandfontein.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Natasha Paris, wife to Adrian Paris. I'm currently, what brings me here is even just being an associate minister to Adrian at the Strandfontein Assemblies of God for the past 12 years. We actually met at seminary, and that's where we got hooked up. But today, I think we are so privileged to be here. I think being in the church context, it presents so many diverse situations and cases in domestic violence. And I think for us, it's really been a great privilege to be supported by Saffi as a resource as well, just helping us through the different situations and navigating through it, because it can be so overwhelming at times. And so indeed, we are ever learning and grateful to be here today. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. My name is Eva Mo. Firstly, I would like to appreciate you for inviting me to this special discussion. I am so glad. So I'm working with an organization called Kulisa Social Solutions. We are operating nationwide, and our main objective is restorative justice. Yeah, so I am the supervisor here in the Western Cape, where we do crime prevention and adult diversion. So with adult diversion, we are actually working with adults who are in conflict with the law. So our role there is like to, instead of them to go to prison, we actually give them the second chance. They'll come to us, and then we offer our services where we have group work with them. And then when they complete, they won't go to prison. So in other words, we are actually giving them a second chance. And we are also doing victim and offender mediation. So we are operating in Mitchell's Plain and then Cape Town CBD. We also have an office in Fezeka, which is Gugulet 2. And yeah, so we have got 4 offices. We are actually doing also victim and offender mediation, as I have mentioned. And with crime prevention, we are working within the communities and also in schools. So it's both primary schools and secondary schools, where we do our life skills programs with the learners. And also when they are on holiday, we also provide school holiday programs, just to make sure that we take them out of the streets. And yeah, that's basically who we are. Thank you so much.
Good morning. My name is Nita Makanji. I'm with an international organization called the Brahma Kumaris. So we have a presence in over 110 countries across the world. And our centers are really places that provide space for people to come and reconnect with themselves. So our approach is, what are the spiritual tools and capacities that we can use to respond to life's challenges? And so we do courses around empowerment, positive thinking, dealing with stress, relationships across all spheres. And our main practice is meditation, about reconnecting with self. We focus a lot on values, principles, and then we do outreach in terms of schools. One of our big programs is Care for the Caregiver, which is really about supporting those that are on the field, because often they get neglected and they keep pushing. So how can we create a space that can support them? And then we've worked in prisons as well, which has been very, very good. So yeah, very, and I'm also a board member on Saffi.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Susan September. I'm one of 9 siblings. And I thank God. My parents has passed on, but we, all 9 of us. And so what I'm doing is I'm a professional nurse, and nursing has always been a passion of mine. And I thank God I've obtained my degree in nursing. And so I've recently launched out from an organization that I've worked, putting myself out as a community-based healthcare professional, because when we get to homes, and this is the work I've been doing for the past 8 years, doing home-based care, and so having to go to homes, make an assessment, provide a care plan for the person in need, but then one actually see who else is in the house. So when you said who's in the room, I get to see who's actually in the room and who's at home. So what I'm grateful for is to have witnessed Saffi. I've been witnessing Saffi, and to be here today is what I sense. We've been doing this at home. We've been having conversations at home as a family. I thank God my parents always allowed us. They've entertained us. They've listened to us. And so that has given us the courage, I think, to step out and do what we do. So as a professional nurse, I've never been scared for blood or go into the trauma rooms. And I remember the days that I also went for the J88, because what I've seen is not just for my nursing files. It's also for a step outside, do the case, lay the charge, and help that person also. And so I'm pleased to be in the room. Thank you for having me.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Michael Mpande from Khayelitsha. I'm here for ZEPS. ZEPS means Zion Evangelical Bible School, which is based in Khayelitsha, working with grassroots church leaders. We targeted all churches, special the independent churches, for those pastors who never have a chance to go to the colleges. So it's been there now for 18 years in Khayelitsha. We almost now spread at whole Western Cape. Thank you. One thing I will, on my curriculum, we're busy now negotiating with Saffi to our negotiation is to see how to can add some Saffi's curriculum, special on GBV studies, because the pastors are the ones who, do things that are not good in the church, or they close their eyes when they see some those issues. Now we're busy with Saffi. I'm here, I've been with Saffi. I've been self-trained on that corner, because, where I've been trained as a pastor, I've been trained that as a so-called reformed. So our reformed theology is that the women must shut up. Until I met Saffi, and it was when was 2010, around there, 2010. Since then, I've got some trainings with Saffi. That's why I'm here. Where is Saffi is, you will see me.
Good morning, everyone. Once again, my name is Ashwin Deploy. I am the program coordinator for the initiative called MAD, Men Affirming Dignity. I've been with Saffi for permanently working for Saffi for a year now. I've been part of Saffi since 2023. I was one of the beneficiaries for 2023 when the previous program coordinator and community development facilitator through the Bontiville Walk-in Ladies, we were introduced to MAD. Suraya Sali asked me, told me, I want you to meet MAD, and I'm like, you can't introduce another MAD person to more MAD people. It's tatigheid, die weekie. But since then, I've been part of Saffi, and yeah, in my personal capacity, I am a religious leader, I'm a pastor. I serve as the chairperson for the Vanguard Pinelands cluster. I serve as the chairperson for the health committee. I'm also part of the Peace of Mind. It's a health organization that speaks on, that speaks to the fact of the role of fathers in the birth in a room when the child is born, and the importance of the skin-to-skin connection. And so, yeah, that's my role in my personal capacity. So the role of dads in the health sector, especially being present within their kids' lives, because normally you would see it's just the mom sitting at the day hospital with the moms at the clinic, and you ask, now where's daddy then? And then, so those are the questions I ask. So where's daddy? And having the dads actually also be present in their kids' lives. So my personal work and also my professional work links with one another. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ashwin. I just want to, before we move on and introduce Dr. Mosalont, I just want to pick up on something that Sikolile said. Not everybody is aware of what's the NSP, you know, and even though, you know, I was listening to some of the interviews for the National GBVF Council, and this was asked, what is the NSP? So the council has actually been put in place to implement the NSP, and that is the work of the council going forward, the oversight role, etc. But the NSP is the guideline or the roadmap for gender-based violence and femicide. And it is the plan that has been developed. It started in 2018, the same year with the presidential summit. It was then with total shutdown, and at that presidential summit, this came from the first presidential summit on gender-based violence. It consists of 6 pillars, and the pillars, pillar 1 is accountability, coordination, and leadership. Pillar 2 is prevention and rebuilding social cohesion. Pillar 3 is justice, safety, and protection. Pillar 4 is response, care, support, and healing. And then pillar 5 is economic power. Pillar 6 is a research and information systems. So all our work around GBVF, we also align it to the pillars and where we put. I mean, even when we report now, everything is around the pillars. The work that we do, everyone asks, which pillar does your work fall in? So it's the roadmap and plan to end gender-based violence and femicide. And thank you for the work you've done, Sesi Kolile. You've done really lots of work, I know, around that. I'm going to hand over to Elizabeth.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Caroline. We'll give Patsy a chance to introduce herself shortly, but also the NSP, so it's National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence in South Africa. So there is finally a national plan in this country. So that is just what Caroline had explained. It's 6 years old. Yeah. So, Patsy, do you want to just quickly introduce yourself and just tell us what you do in your community?
Good morning, everybody. Sorry for being an hour late. The map took me around about in the peninsula here. So I'm Patsy Daniels. Where do I start? Okay. I come out of the community development practice field. Been knocked down, lift myself up just before COVID, and started the Ratu Family Foundation. So when COVID hit, you know, I was ready, you know, just to serve. And so some of the services is doing healing through arts with children out of school. Not starting out of school, after school healing through art classes with 7 to 17-year-olds. And then I'm just busy starting now with a new term, working as a pilot project within Manenberg, working with children out of school that's supposed to be in school because of documentation, neglect, trauma, etc., you know, and assisting the parents to get them back into the school system. So that is that. And then I also work with women, doing empowerment, doing GBV training. I also do ad hoc GBV intervention, so I don't have a set program, but I, you know, do ad hoc in terms of when an issue comes, I deal with it. I don't turn it away, so I don't deal with it. But I do training, I do workshops, awareness raising around the 16 days of activism, as well as, you know, being a commissioner of oaths in the community, doing consultation. So there's a lot of work, you know. I would rather say that we do, that government is supposed to do. Most of the work that I do is pro bono if I don't, you know, get funding for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Patsy. So we've heard everyone, so everybody's voice is in the room, but I also wanted, especially our keynote speakers, our panelists, to also just know who is in the room, you know, as we are today really focused on what are we drawing, you know, in terms of resources. And so Dr. Marcel Lond will be our first speaker, and she will really talk about the personal is political, you know, and she'll share about, you know, drawing on your personal experiences as helpful indigenous resources to make headway in eradicating gender-based violence and intimate partner abuse. So talking about the personal is political. Also I just want to make a claim. My sister, I want to claim her publicly in this room. You know, Susan is my sister. She occupied my mother's womb 3 years before I came. So she is very important in terms of holding space, paving the way for me. So thank you, Susan, for making the time to be here. In the Eurocentric worldviews, often, you know, the way we do, or people do the work that operate from that worldview is we take things for granted, that this is natural. We don't claim, we don't name that actually whatever we are doing is impacted by where we come from, who we are, our context, right? And I think as Afrocentric people working from an African-centered understanding, we know that whatever we do is informed by our lived experience. We didn't just arrive here just by ourselves. And so I'm going to hand over to Caroline. This is what we've done yesterday, which has been great, helping me, because I need structure, man, because I can talk.
Yes. And I'm watching the time. It's 11 o'clock,
okay,
and we should have been on the next speaker. Yes.
Short. So Caroline's going to... Yes.
What is your response to Elizabeth when she publicly says that her big sister was born 3 years before and she is calling her Susan?
Excuse me? What? What?
You must say, see Susan. Oh, yes.
Anyway.
She's your big sister.
See Susan. See Susan. See Susan. Okay. Okay. All right. See Susan. All right. So, okay, thank you. So, the way Caroline and I have Caroline has supported me yesterday with this co-facilitation, she read the people's bios, Marcel, because I kind of talk the way I talk, and then we miss critical pieces. So I'm going to just introduce you, and then Caroline will read your, or will say more about you on your bio. Thank you, Caroline.
Okay. So Dr. Marcel Lond is the former head of the Department of... I just want to say what an honor this is to be introducing you Dr. Marcel Lont is the former head of the Department of Social Work at the University of the Western Cape. She holds an undergrad degree from UWC, a clinical master's from UCT, postgraduate certificate from the University of Louisville, Kentucky, USA, in assessment and intervention with juvenile sex offenders, and a PhD from UWC. She's closely associated with intervention, assessment, and program development for children, adolescents, and adults who present with sexual behavior challenges. Her current research and community engagement has a strong focus on a risk assessment with juvenile and adult sex offenders, as well as engagement with young children with sexual behavior problems. Dr. Lont is probably mostly associated with assessment and intervention with adult sex offenders within a custodial and community-based settings. Her community-based program with adult sex offenders provides intervention programs to those adults who have a known history of sexual offenses and are generally court mandated to attend intervention activities. Her work over a 32-year period was premised on the notion that sexual abuse cannot be prevented unless we fully understand sexual offenders, sexual offenses, and those diagnosed or misdiagnosed as pedophiles. For the last decade, Dr. Marcel Lont has evaluated a growing number of adults convicted of or admitting to an offense related to child sexual exploitation material. For work with those adults who may not fit the diagnostic criteria for pedophilia, but admit to an ongoing interest in child sexual exploitation material, she has used several risk assessment instruments to determine whether such an individual will escalate to a no contact offense. Will escalate to a contact offense. I give you Dr. Marcel Lont. Thank you.
Thank you so Thank you so much. I think just listening to your voices.
15 minutes.
Okay. Listening to your voices. I just need 1 minute to get into trouble. Listening to your voices, I kind of think that I'm on the wrong side of this table. So I'm honored to be in your company. I'm certainly honored to be with Dr. Peterson and Caroline. We have a long history, which I won't go into, except to say neither of these two women give up. You know those little doggies, they want a bone, they don't let go? This is it. So I've been given the luxury of talking about the personal as political. And so I've angst about that. You know, do I out the people that kind of got me riled up? And this is not the space for that. But I thought I'd engage with this as a pathway. And so where did the pathway start for me? The pathway started in a place, I'm sure a lot of people don't know it, is Ravensmead, with a wayside Sunday school. And my husband, whose father was the elder of a very conservative grouping, I might say, he was tasked with the responsibility of growing these unchurched kids, whose parents were mostly drunk on a Sunday afternoon, into gospel and salvation. It wasn't long before he and I realized that these kids were not only unchurched, but there were lots of other issues. So how do you sell the gospel to a hungry child, to a child who feels othered, to a child who expects that society thinks he's going to not make it? And so, of course, alongside the Sunday school came the social skills stuff, came the acknowledging identity and developing a social identity. The sad thing is many of those children learned in that space that they were entitled and they too had a birthday. For them, birthdays belong to white children. And those were the challenges. Of course, the leadership of the church was not going to have any of this. because we were seen to veer away from the main job. And the main job was to, disseminate the gospel. And so, needless to say, they asked, not me as much, they asked my husband to leave. So he was disciplined because he couldn't shut his communist wife up. And his wife wouldn't keep quiet, and that space was for men only. I mean, the big issue was patriarchal values that were so entrenched around entitlement, around we the only ones that have a voice, dressed up as doctrinal ideology. So needless to say, every Sunday morning, the scriptures that were used were to kind of, you keep quiet, know your place. Just make sure you wear a hat. Only time you open your mouth is when you sing. Nowhere else. So out of that body of work, I went to do the social work course and then ended up working in a children's home. And because I still had the leanings of wanting to serve and wanting to minister, I went into the children's home thinking, these dear little darlings, I'm going to minister to them and I'm going to lead them to development, only to discover those darlings were very damaged children. They were the kids that nobody wanted to, they killed your pets, they stole stuff, they were unlovable. And so the work kind of started with them. And out of that, recognizing abused children. And I think that that body of work emphasized that there's always hope, that there's a diamond in the dust somewhere. And I think out of that, I developed a lot of those children. After they'd been in the programs, there was no place for them to go. And once they left residential care, they turned up again with all kinds of other problems. And so this is how the sex offender work started. I did a study informally to find out, can we bring the parents on board? Not all parents are useless and dangerous. And so I went finding those parents that would come once a week, come and cut their children's hair, come and sit at supper time. But then, to my horror, discovered that the cycle of violence, many of these families had put their children out as young as 9 into child prostitution. The whole family, every child, kind of rite of passage was to sell sex on the street. So that kind of shaped my understanding. And I think it prepared me for a life's work that says, you cannot other people because of their behavior. You cannot other. Yes, some of them are dangerous. But the principle that I think one is committed to is the principle of best interest of all. And when we operate from the best interest of all, you don't have the luxury to other people and to say this one can and cannot be treated. And I suppose that's what's propelled me into the work of risk assessment. Not every sex offender can be treated in a community-based program. There are some people who should be in prison. And my work with sex offenders and rapists in prison brought other realities, that if you were black, not white, you are more likely to end up in prison, whether it's in South Africa or in Mexico or in Seattle. If you were white, you were resourced, you end up in the program like I run. And so at the moment, I probably have the longest running community-based sex offender program in Cape Town. I'm not sure what happens elsewhere. And we've learned that you have to find those people that can respond to treatment and find those people where, they're going to come out of prison and walk into another community. And so all those people who advocated for them to go to prison are now gone. And the offender's coming out. And if it's a white offender, he finds a rural community, teaches the children how to drive a car, pays the rent, provides food, parcels, and also infects kids with gonorrhea and other sexual transmitted diseases. So I think the work with perpetrators has taught me a couple of lessons. One is not all men are perpetrators. I can't believe I'm going to say this. I'm married for 44 years to the same person who's an absolute sweetie pie. And I often say to him, people ask you why you're married so long. Tell them you're afraid of change. And his notion is, should I not tell them the work that you do? It's like, no, leave that. So there are men that have been the heroes in my life of work. Certainly my husband and his early work with children, wayside children. And so the joy when these kids come back and say, Brother Lont, Brother Eddie, I'm a dentist now. Or, Bro Eddie, ek was nie dronk, maar ek is nou bekeer, ek is weer all right. So my resentment towards the church, Pastor, you'd be happy to know, I've since repented and I've built bridges. So I do some stuff in the church. And I keep it, I tone it down, ask Elizabeth. So I think that I want to talk about the work at UWC. I went to UWC not because I wanted to be a professor and write articles that nobody would read. The only articles that people read are, the ones that you make your students read. And I didn't want to be part of that. What I wanted to do was to build and develop a cohort of social workers who think like I do, who will be ethical, and who would roll their sleeves up and make a difference and be a change maker. Not sit there and, what social workers have become over the years, we've used labels. Way back then in the children's home, if a child was acting out, we'd go and find a psychologist, psychiatrist who say, oh no, this child is conduct disordered. So when that child gets that label of being conduct disordered, there's the assumption, die kind gaan 'n psychopath raak. Child's going to become a sociopath. Can't do anything. And I wanted to change that mindset. That was the one commitment. The other commitment was to find the other diamonds in the dust. Social workers that graduated, but are doing the kind of work that you guys are doing. Sterling work, valuable work. And so I wanted to find them and drag them by their necks to come and do a postgraduate degree. Not to increase the revenue of UWC, but to make sure their work was located in credible resource and research. Unfortunately, if you're a social worker and you just have a basic degree, you don't mount to anything. Nobody takes you serious. So that piece of paper, whether we like it or not, becomes important. So I would find the social workers that's doing wonderful work in prison. And they would ask me, can you come do some training on working with sex offenders? And my response is no. But if you come and do a degree, postgraduate degree, I'd be happy to supervise you. And I'll be happy to mentor you. So that brings me to where am I now? I'm a retired academic. I obviously wasn't the kind of academic that they wanted because I didn't leave as a professor. I left as a social worker a lecturer, senior lecturer, who'd graduated 19 PhD students and graduated 49 master's students. So if I had written up all their articles, you'd probably call me professor, which I wasn't invested in. So my role now is, like Elizabeth said, is to keep below the radar, continue to mentor, continue to develop others. And so when you become good at what you do, and you on the center stage all the time, there's something wrong. We need to change the faces, have mini-me's, have people who will continue the work. And I think both these two women are examples of that. They take people by the hair, by the scruff of their neck, and they drag them into the space to develop excellence. So my parting or closing comments, that the pathway to where we are, if we pay attention to that, nothing is incidental. The years that I worked in the prison, the years that I went into the Baptist church in Strandfontein, after I vowed, I'm never putting my foot into another church, because there was another pastor who was dabbling in child pornography behind his way. And I said, I'm not going to be part of this. 2 weeks later, I'm busy doing a 6-week program at the Baptist church. And so you mentioned earlier about when the Lord calls you to do something. It's often I'd say, can't you call me to go sell houses or something? I've got the skill. Or, find something else. But if you're called, you better just give it up and go with it. It doesn't matter whether you're sitting in the middle of the night with insomnia thinking, how am I going to work with this woman who tells her daughter, I would rather want you dead than to acknowledge you a gay woman. What am I going to do with that person without sitting in judgment? So that comes with the territory. I went to a church once after I saw, I'm not putting my foot into another church, ever. They had this pastor from New York who was taking on billboards with drugs and all that. And my friend convinced me, come with me to church. This is Martin Luther King's church. Come with, Los Angeles. And I thought, So this little man gets behind the pulpit. And he puts his lips around that mic. And he says, Lord, create a turmoil in our souls. And I thought, Hebo, are you nuts? I came here to not listen. And he used the story of Jonah. And I come from a Christian background. So don't tell me about Jonah. I mean, I'm the text, can you? And then he talks about Jonah being a second chance, not about being disobedient. And there I sat, thinking, this ministry junk is not for me. Not for me. I'm going to. And then going from here to Los Angeles, man opens his prayer with creative turmoil in our hearts. And that's been my mantra. If I don't have a turmoil in my heart for this work and this ministry, I'm becoming complacent. Yes. And that's why I feel so blessed to be in this kind of space. I hear your stories, and I just want to wish you well. Thank you very much.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Marcel. Sure, so much richness, so much, and just something up in me, when talk about Strandfontein and churches. Something happened in Strandfontein in a church for me to pastor, and for 2 years I didn't attend church. And how we sit with that, because we grow up in the church and we have the background and I mean, I even know people in your church and family in your church and for 2 years I couldn't go to church. I couldn't sit under a man's word that said to me, ach Caroline, when we grew up, when something's wrong in the household, you go to your pastor. And then you go to pastor and pastor says to me, when we left, and this was a man that was hitting me physically, him and pastor hugged and shook hands, and I went home crying, just a little bit of, And then for 2 years I stepped away from the church. So churches also hurt, and sometimes we don't talk about that, how churches hurt us, the hurt that we experience within churches. And it's then grace that brings us back, But thank you so much, And I just want to say to Marcel, many years ago I was at the Network on Violence Against Women, and there was, and you must have been, and now sitting here, I must say this to you, and this is that space, and there was a scripture at the bottom of the signature, and you said, no. It must have been at a stage where you were very angry at church, And she wouldn't allow us to put the scripture at the bottom of our signature. But but I'm so happy to hear,
So, yes. Sorry, this is the one thing I wanted to say. My work with perpetrators who come from the church. When they come with denial or whatever, given my background, I would confront them with the notion that quick forgiveness equals cheap grace.
That's right.
and they can't get away from that.
Yeah,
So yeah, I have.
Thank you, Marcel.
Yes,
Yeah, we're gonna move on.
we'll talk a lot more, maybe in our discussions about what Marcel had shared, but we would like to move on to
Prof.
Prof, are you there, Mutombo?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
So I'm just going to let Caroline introduce you to, this is a new group of people, so there may be just a few that
Yes.
was there yesterday.
Yeah.
Just to give
Okay.
you that heads up. All right, so you go ahead.
Thank you, Prof. So Prof. Mutombo Nkulu Nzenga was born in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. He was trained by Jesuits and earned his doctorate at Temple University. He studied with some of the founders of modern African literature and philosophy. He's a scholar and activist focused on African ethics and peace, and specializes in African philosophy, human rights, and the Ubunto paradigm, which means the philosophy of genuine personhood. He is professor of religious studies at California State University, Northridge. He is also a visiting professor at the University of Kamina in the Congo. He teaches courses on world religions, African traditional religions, and religion, violence, and peace. He is the author of numerous publications, including contributions to the Encyclopedia Britannica on Bantu philosophy, and works on African ethics and interreligious dialogue. Thank you, Professor Mutombo. Over to you. You have 15 minutes. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Sister Elizabeth. That always tease. I call her Queen Elizabeth. Listen, it's good that you told me that we have a new group. So I want to talk about men's perspective on this issue of women, but I'm speaking from two traditions. One is a Christian, I was raised a Christian and a Catholic. The other one is African traditional religions. My father was not a Christian. He was baptized just a few days before dying. So I grew up in the family seeing all these elements. I'm saying this because, as you well know, the African continent is more or less 40% Muslim and 40% Christian. Traditional religion used to be majority not a long time ago. At the beginning of the 20th century, they were the majority, but just in 1 century, they have dwindled tremendously. And yet these are the traditions that have shaped the continent for millennia. Yesterday I was saying that every time I talk about women, I'm reminded that women gave birth to the entire humanity. I live here in California, where at Berkeley they found out we all come from a woman who lived in Africa around 200,000 years ago. This is known as mitochondrial Eve, or Black Eve, or African Eve theory. I was saying that every time I approach these issues, I approach them from a scholarly point of view, but here we want to have a conversation. You see here some books I contributed to, What Men Owe to Women. That's really the most important, I think. We also published Violence Against Women in Contemporary World Religion. In fact, we had some scholars from South Africa who came when we did this. So this is the perspective. So I will be talking basically about the foundation on how we deal with these issues. I was listening carefully to what has been said here, the issue of root causes. And the notion of the private is political. I found that quite interesting. It's always to know why a person is acting the way they act. Just a parenthesis for those who look at geopolitics, etc. I think you are aware that on this planet, Thailand, at some point, used to have the highest degree of prostitutes. Why? Because of the Vietnam War. You had Vietnam War, and the soldiers were going, quote unquote, to take rest in Thailand. And he created an issue. When I was studying theology, monks had to create institutions to save these women. So Buddhist monks were deeply involved. So what I'm saying here is when things happen, people always say, oh, this is their culture. Violence is not an African culture. We hear this, oh, there's violence in South Africa. This is who they are. No, 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 no. This is not who they are. All these things are created by various social, cultural, economic, political conditions which make people behave this way. And so I'm going to talk about the foundation on how we evaluate these things. Here is you forgive me, I wanted to use PowerPoint because stuff are written in different languages. I'm speaking from a Kiluba language, which is one of the Bantu languages. If I say a little bit close to Zulu in some words. So we do have a concept of Muntu, that is a good human being. Kintu is a thing. So if I'm a good human being, I'm a Muntu. When I'm lying, I'm violent, I'm not responsible with my children, I become a Kintu. So I just take one word here, Mulume. Tata is father, mama,
Sorry,
mother.
Prof.
Mulume is
Sorry,
his
Prof.
husband.
Sorry,
Yes.
are you gonna show your presentation? It's fine. You can show it. If you
Oh, you're not seeing it?
No, we're not seeing it. We see you, which is wonderful.
Oh, no, that's one. I did the share.
Yeah, okay, so
maybe,
our tech person is gonna just help you or get us
yeah,
to do
please,
that.
yeah, absolutely.
Because
That's
I think
important.
it's really crucial to actually see your presentation.
Yes, because they are written in different languages, so it's good if
Yes.
people see. Let's see.
We're
I
almost
put
there.
share. Can you
There
see?
we go.
Oh, this is funny. That's the way I did it before. Yeah, sorry. Anyway. Yeah, so you see here, Mulume means a husband. An abusive husband is called a Kilume. And in the society, when people prefix ki, nobody needs explanation. They know this is a non-reliable person. This is not a good person. Now, how do we evaluate these things? Well, we evaluate them from 4 major criteria. The first is Muchima Muya, that's a good heart. It means also good thought, because we can do things through a way of thinking. And the opposite is Muchima Mubi, bad. Ludimiluya is a good talk, good speech. You can hurt people with speech tremendously. I think people who study Buddhism see that we have things which are similar here. And then Diso is eye or glance. You can hurt people just by the way you look at them, or you can express love just by looking at a person. And finally, the fourth is Bilongwa, actions. So from these kind of 4 pillars, we can look at somebody and evaluate if we are dealing with a good person or a non-good person. I also found out, by the way, now looking at the studies, that in various African cultures, including Zulu, Xhosa, Shona, we say a human is a human with other human beings. And somebody who misbehaves is considered as a non-human. Of course, you are not non-human forever. You can change and so on. So these are the foundational values, and these are coming from traditions, which help us evaluate if we are dealing with a good husband, a good man, or a bad one. And I try to articulate the equivalent of 10 commandments. I'm not going to read this. And the violence is one of those. It's evil. Hurting your wife, your mother is not going to say, oh, you are a nice boy. No. They will say you are a shame to the family. And then I'm going to, before I conclude, because I would like to have a conversation so that I can respond to many things. There is this wonderful text from Nigeria It's called the Iwa lesson. Good character is the essence of religion. It says a man may be very handsome as a fish in the water, but if he has no character, he's no more than a wooden doll. Iwa is what I'm looking for. Good character is what we look for. So we do have these values in tradition. As I was saying yesterday, I know that Christian and Muslim have institutions to teach these things to young people. So teaching is what is obviously very important. And in the context of Africa and Afrocentric perspective, I think traditional values need to be energized. After all, I'm sure in South Africa it's also done. We talk about African theology. What is African theology in Christianity? African theology is taking the tradition of Christianity, the Bible, the living condition of people, and the various traditions. We can remember here that Christmas tree is not Christian, right? It's a pagan thing coming from Germany, from previous, let's say, quote unquote pagan cultures. Jesus born 25th of December. That's a Roman thing. So what I'm saying here is that positive values of our tradition should be energized and added in order to help us create harmonious families and good relationship between men and women. I will conclude by saying something. The reason why I came in touch with Sister Elizabeth and I remain is because of her concern for this balance between men and women. You know, I live in the US and we have a variety of feminisms here. But as one of our brothers said yesterday from Baha'i faith, that men and women are like two wings. A plane needs to fly to go to God. If one is not okay, there is imbalance and the plane cannot fly. So this concern that we need also to save men as well as women for societies to be strong. I think one of our sisters who said one thing here, that men are likely to go to jail, whether you are in the US or in various other societies. So I think the kind of work that Saffi is doing is extremely, extremely relevant. I'm going to conclude by not correcting, by clarifying one thing I said yesterday. When Dr. Dende was talking, so she raised this issue of laws, people creating laws, monolithic laws which hurt families. That we do have men who make women pregnant, they don't take responsibility, do not deal with children. Later on, the law is going to give the children to that responsible father. We do have laws. One thing I said yesterday that I want to clarify, in the US, we do have federal laws and state laws. Officially, for the safety of the woman, a young lady should have a child when she's well formed and she's ready for it mentally. So 18 is the age, which is, as you know, fixed by the UN. But here in the US, you know, people can marry people who are 16 or 17 in some states here. That is a local law. I was not saying that to say that it should be done. I was just saying that when we are in modernity, some laws need to be adapted to various communities. And this is another case. When I go to Congo, I found prison full of boys. So a young man has his friends, and at some point people want money. They say, oh, she's not 18, she's 17. She's a minor. And they go to the court, they give money. So we found the prison full of boys. But when somebody goes to prison, they come back broken. They're not coming out to be good husbands. And I had a female lawyer who told me, this is the situation we do have here. We need to do something to protect the men. So I thank you for the work that you are doing. the continent is suffering from various, pressure and all kind of things. And it may seem a drop in the water, in the ocean, but still important. This kind of, it's going to be multiplied. And we need to save both men and women for society to thrive. Thank you for inviting me to talk to you.
Thank you, Prof.
Thanks, Prof. We want to see you again on the screen. We're now just seeing your presentation.
I think it's just the way the system is made. Yes. Yesterday it worked.
Yes. Yeah. When we acknowledge you, we want you to see and to hear, and we want to see you. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll have more discussion. We now want to have Prof. Mdende speak. And then we're gonna be, having some conversation and questions. Prof, are you ready? Okay, but let Caroline first introduce you, please.
Yes.
Mdende, my very important person in my life.
Yes. So Prof, yes, Prof. Njoli Nokozula Mdende is a distinguished South African academic, cultural activist and practitioner of African traditional religion. Prof. Mdende has authored several influential works on African spirituality. She's the founder and director of this Ikamagu Heritage Institute, which serves as a Xhosa place of learning and spiritual practice. Prof. Mdende is a member of the Nawano Peace Prize Committee in Tokyo, Japan, representing African indigenous faith on the global interfaith stage. She is widely recognized for her work in elevating African indigenous spirituality to international status and was honored as a National Living Treasure in 2023. Prof. Mdende is a member of Saffi's Theological Advisory Council on GBV, and she, together with Alan Bosak, serve as Saffi's Pan-African Program on Religion and GBV patrons. Prof. Mdende.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for always inviting me. And Susan, your sister, I think she is the only one who's not scared of me. Because she will tell me, no, Njoli. No, Njoli. But we love each other. Thank you for inviting me. I'm from the Eastern Cape. I'm not from Cape Town, but I made it a point that I'll come here. Caroline, you have not yet started counting, ne? So, please tell me when it's 5 minutes, because there are 2 minutes. I've got a video that I want to show. Yes. Thank you so much, Prof. Mutombo. And I so wish before I can't just walk, you'll invite me to talk about African traditional religion. And you spoke about 40% Christian and 40% Islam. You know, in South Africa, I must be honest, Christians have not been telling the truth. Because, I'll make an example about you. You know, she may be a Christian, but when she goes back home, she is not a Christian. So where do you put her in that? Even myself, in 2022, during the time of census, my name is there with the Christian communities, and I'm not a Christian. So the statistics, I'm always challenging them. And Babumbande knows, because if he is a Tatom Dala, the great, yes, there are duties that he must perform for the children of his brothers. So that is why, in my theory, there is a subset section. So I say the black Africans, andazi ke mawawo, noba uzawufumana, the black Africans fall into that category. 1 foot Christian, 1 foot African traditional religion. So I don't know, I'm not sure about this 40%. I'm talking about South Africa now. Okay, I wanted to, thank you, Caroline. I wanted to introduce myself. You know, we can talk about all these issues that we are facing, the challenges even in my community. We can talk about them, but I always like to cite Chinwezu, who says, the map of our past is the pathfinder to our destiny. If we misread that map or consult an incorrect map, we are going to misdirect our efforts for liberation. So this is what is happening. We are, in most cases, we are misreading. And not only women, all of us, we are misreading the map of our past. And I want to tell something about myself. I'm rural. I'm 80% rural and 20% urban. So some of the challenges are urban, and there are those that are rural. I'm the only daughter at home amongst 3 brothers. You can see. I'm a mother of 3 boys. I don't have a girl. And I'm a grandmother of 3 grandsons. You know, you see, and again, I am a leader of African traditional religion, whether men like it or not. If you talk about African traditional religion in South Africa, the first person to come out is Noxola Mdende. And my men had been fighting me, both in social media and everywhere. So I know, my darling, how patriarchy can be toxic to us. So, and sometimes they even define you by the way you wee. Suka, I can't hear from a person who sits down when weeing. Is there anything better when you stand up when you are weeing? It has got nothing to do with that. So that is the problem we are facing. Now my duty, my main duty, that is why sometimes you see myself like a butterfly, I'm here and there. My main aim is to decolonize the mind. Because if we don't decolonize the mind, we'll find ourselves doing the wrong thing. And I was a biology teacher before I became a theologian. And when these men are challenging me, I always tell them, one of my close brothers in my family said, hey, you know, Noxola thinks that she has got testicles. And then they were using that word. And then I said, I'm very happy that God put the brain inside the cranium. The brain is there, it's not there. So if you have got a brain that is there, that means it's taken here and put there. That is why you are behaving like this. Mine is 100% inside the cranium. So I'm very confident about myself. So, and again, the question of being selective. I want those who are closer, if I'm telling a lie, they must correct me. You know, in our tradition, you'll find that when a woman is menstruating, it's not allowed inside the cattle kraal because it's making animals to be weak. And even those animals are very selective. It's only cattle because they are keeping their cattle inside the cattle kraal. And I'm asking, what about the pigs? What about the chickens? because they don't stay there. No one is saying you are making them to be weak. It's just because it's those that are owned by men that are, they thought, and each and every man is the product of menstruation. Because yes, it's the product of menstruation. Why are they scared of menstruation now? So that is why I'm saying the history of our past. So we must go back. I'm not saying we must stay there, but make a comparison. That is why when men saying pants are for men and not for women, I said, you are lying. Because in isiXhosa, the Xhosa word for pants is ibhlukwe, from Afrikaans broek. So you had no bluequets in the past. Why are you making it the culture now? After all, the men were having only something which is called the silver just to cover the penis. Otherwise, the testicles were going wayside. I thought out piggies. Okay, that is why I'm saying, let us go back and study. Now, coming to what I said yesterday, I'm not going to be long. Yesterday, I was challenging the laws because even the laws were working. They are patriarchal. Even in this democracy, they are patriarchal, the laws there. And I will be coming to Cape Town again to talk about the paralysis of the indigenous laws and the promotion of the transplanted laws, the Roman Dutch law. I will come and explain that. And I'm happy that there's a police here. Hey, there was a time I was insulted in social media by a psychopath. And then a police officer from Kissenhof, yes, wrote on the papers he was wearing a police uniform, said, because I took that guy to court, because he was insulting me using my mother's private parts. And then this guy, who is a causer, said, give me that docket. I will destroy it and destroy even the owner. But yes, the police, they did nothing about that. I said he did nothing because he is a man. So that is the problem that we are having. And now before we come to that, again, yesterday I mentioned something about the language. I'm still having a problem because even now I'm communicating in a colonial language. I went to Kenya as one of the women theologians, to the circle of concerned African theologians. Now, the organizer said, ladies, Francophone this side, Anglophone this side, Lusophone this side. I knew what she was saying, but I wanted to take an exception. I stayed, I didn't go anywhere. And South Africa says, no, Sola. Southern Africa, no, Sola. I said, wait. And I was asked, no, Sola, why are you alone? I said, why are we being defined according to colonial languages? I'm expecting for you, madam, to tell me where's the Xhosa phone, if there's a phone, Lusophone. Because I'm not English speaking, I'm not Portuguese speaking, I'm not French speaking. Why now can't use our own African language, right? So this is what I said. So now I'm the founder of Itamaku Institute. Thank you for pronouncing it right. Because most people say Ikamaku. It's not an Ikamaku. It's Ikamaku. So thank you so much. And it is, the Itamaku Institute is the first institute to develop the clergy for African traditional religion. Because that name was even was revealed to me to say, why do you want people to find the name? Okay, thank you. Find the name, and yet you are Injoli. Injoli in the traditional community, when there's a ritual, is the person who is saying this dish must go to that group, this one must go there, this one must go there. And the name Injol was revealed. We are calling ourselves clergy. So that is why I'm very proud of myself in liberating this religion. Now, I'm said it's 5 minutes. I want to show you something. I hope it's going to show. But we can, as women, fight for our liberation, for this gender-based violence and so on. But there must be a time, Elizabeth, that you call us as women and correct ourselves. Because sometimes the approach that we are using is not right. This is not the thing that must be done. I want to show you 2 clips, and then I'll comment 1 minute. Can you show it now? The clip. What is it? Okay. Is it not play the volume? Okay. It's just because I know Caroline. The one with the volume. Because I want us to show, and I want you guys to check if this is the right approach that the women are doing now to liberate themselves. Okay, if it doesn't, so I can explain that. Now, what we are saying, our men, this is an initiation. Eh? Yeah, this is initiation. You know, as a rite of passage. Now, this is male initiation. This is the time when the boy is coming out. But that is the celebration. But these women, the mothers called Amazabazana, instead of they are hijacking that ritual now. They are showing it's about them and not about this young man who is coming out from this initiation, which is wrong. And secondly, we can use the metaphors that I'm breastfeeding. But what symbol are you using to show that I've breastfed this young man? Now they are buying expensive liquor, 3,000, and when they're expensing that, they break it. So they are showing how money are they. They are breaking. What are you saying to this young man when you are buying alcohol and breaking it? So you must say, go and be a drunkard. So that is the, so we're having a problem with that one. And now it's going to be, I understand, Undiki, it's going to be on television. And yes, and what does it say? 500,000. You must be able to fork out 500,000. What about this poor woman who can't even afford the 20,000? So again, we are also at fault sometimes. So we must teach each other. So I think I've shown that one. We can go to the second one. This second one happened in Cape Town. Now, Caroline was telling me about the sad news this morning when somebody was struck by a stray bullet and that person passed on. Now, the deputy mayor of Pito in Plettenberg Bay, during the same initiation ritual, was firing. And she says, no, just because I'm a woman, you are saying this, discharging a firearm amongst the people, whether you're man or woman, is wrong. But now she was using her femininity that I'm right. And why bringing a gun in a celebration? So these are the things that we must also look at.
This new video shows another angle of the incident. Pito Municipality's communications head, Andile Namtu, confirmed that the man is employed by the municipality. He's also Kawapi's protector and driver. 2 charges are pending against her, opened by a resident and the Plet Ratepayers Association.
There was a concerned resident that sent me the video and asked me if is it legal because her young daughter was actually in front of the weapon that was fired at the time. That's why I decided to lay a criminal case against the deputy mayor. I'm a person with a background of military and also as a firearm instructor during my days. I could see that is a semi-automatic weapon being fired.
He says the law enforcement official should also be held accountable.
As a law enforcement official, he is charged to enforce bylaws. But in this instance, he failed deliberately to enforce all the bylaws that he was supposed to enforce. He should be held accountable because this is a person, you must understand, he's a law enforcement officer. This means that he took an oath of office to enforce the bylaws of this municipality.
Kolwapi is the president of the quasi-political movement.
So that is why I'm saying, ladies, we could be suppressed by these men, but sometimes our approaches are wrong. So let us be able to come together and correct each other so that we can move forward the right way. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you so much, Prof Mdende. You're gonna show both the screens so we can see Prof. Okay, so thank you so much. Rich information that was shared. You can see how all of you can see the thread. You can see the thread in terms of the combination of persons that is in this conversation, but also something just about what happens when you lean into your calling. Because often our callings, God doesn't make copies. He has no need to make copies. And so I think part of today's time together is also to strengthen all of us around this table, and whoever's going to listen to this, because this will be on Saffi's YouTube channel, so to provide some sort of courage. Dr. Lond made reference to Jonah, and I think I wrote a little something not so long ago about that, just threw it out. Because when Jesus was, since we are in Holy Week, so this is a very holy time at the same time in the world, last couple of days of Jesus, commemorating Jesus really, and his last couple of days on the earth. And so with his entire life, he came to revolutionize what was going on. So in fact, he was a lone soul in many ways. Probably a lot of turmoil inside because of the burden of his calling. And so what we see in that particular example, when people pushed him and pressed him and said, give us a sign, he said, no other sign will I give you than the sign of Jonah. And so, and I'm bringing that in to say that, there's an African proverb that says you can run from the thing that is behind you, right? But you can never run from that which is inside of you. And so this is a time for us to be strengthened, because I know that the work around this table and many people out there is sometimes a tough road. There are pastors that are here. You are not just sort of automatically inheriting what, and just doing your work the way that you have been trained. You are seeking out God's specific call at this specific time in the history of humanity, and even those of us who are doing this work. And so we do want to acknowledge people like the three main speakers that we've heard here today, because they are our elders. They are showing us, they are living ancestors, showing us it is possible. You will be protected. You are covered when you are serving God's purpose. You can decide whether the breaking of you will happen by God or whether the breaking will happen by the people. You know, but certainly there's a breaking, there's a dying, there's a death that would happen. And so if I bring back into the context of Holy Week that I'm referencing, then I want to say, I know that the colonialist theology has often propagated the suffering of Jesus, the violence, and that he came to die for us in a violent way, and we should know that you know, our suffering cannot be compared to the violence that Jesus had gone through. And I want to interrupt that to say that I believe, my sense and conviction is that Jesus really came to show human beings what it is to live, to be completely devoted to your calling right until the end, and to remain human, and to not tap into the evil stuff that Prof. Mutombo was just showing us, right? And so to stay human, to not use evil resources, the oppressor's resources, to assert yourself and your calling. And so I believe that is in fact what Jesus came to show us, and not so much the violence, because yes, everybody will die. But even him being surrounded by people that loved him and that saw him and they wanted to lift him up in a particular way. But he knew that the calling that he had was not just for his people. It was for the people of the world. And so even though he could call 1,000 angels, even though he could actually step into a prominent position, you know, at that particular time that his people needed, he knew that that is not what he was supposed to do. He wasn't supposed to become the mayor or the president of the country or the whatever. And so when we listen to Prof. Mdende and her path and her journey, and we listen to Dr. Marcel Lont, it's the same thing. It's this quest. It's this quest of staying true to the calling. And so even with all three of them, if you've heard them and sensed them, because we can sense, you sense the humanity and the humility, and we almost have to force them to come. I have to force them to come and speak, you know, and those are the signs of the Christ. Those are the signs of the Christ. It's not the ones that believe they should be. You know, we often have to really pull them in because it feels like there's a veil. Some of you, many of you around this table, Pastor Adrian and Natasha, some of those people that it's almost like, no, it's like, and I think maybe God has a way of putting a veil over us so that we do not see ourselves. Because if we actually did see ourselves, who we truly are, you know, I think we would be afraid of ourselves. We would run away from ourselves in the spiritual sense. And so I'm bringing that to say, do not be afraid. Be full of courage. The journey of stripping and breaking that has happened over decades, it's not in vain. It is time now. We see that the entire universe, the world is shifting. And actually all that it is requiring is for each one of us to come into complete alignment. It's personal. The work is personal. Come into complete alignment with God's calling for your life right now at this time. Like Dr. Lont said, yes, there's a time that we need to be in the wilderness. We need to sometimes give up God so that we can find God. God is not intimidated when his own creation, sort of feels like, "Ek wil niks met jou te doen hê." You know, he holds space for us. He holds space for us because he understands it is important for you to be there. So by the time you reach somebody who is now in that place. Your compassion will not be a compassion that is spoken and taken from books, but it is a lived compassion, right? And so be full of courage. Yes, shift. Don't be afraid if you go back to where you started, because God is not confused. When He called you for a certain thing, in a certain place, it will come to pass. In my experience, maybe the church where I grew up in did not want to accept the Saffi offering. But I'm more and more realizing it was all part of God's plan, actually. Because imagine they accepted. We wouldn't be sitting here. You get what I'm saying? So like my dad used to say, the problem van die mens is we take things too personally. He said personally because he knew we would laugh, about it. But yeah, God has not forgotten about us, you, and each one of us, and He closes the doors. It's actually not anybody that closes the door. He closes it. He's the one in Jonah's case that brought the wonderboom. What is it? The wonder tree. Right? And then in the next morning, He took the wonder tree away. The wonder tree was just to give you a little bit of covering and support. And then it's gone the next day. But what did Jonah? He got angry. And sometimes we are the same. You have that relationship or that person. That was just a wonderboom. It was just a wonder tree for one night. But we get angry when that relationship suddenly comes to an end, or when that support suddenly disappears. God makes provision and He will lead us on. Let us stick to that particular call. Can we open it now just for reactions and comments? I know we want to send Mutombo to bed eventually soon.
We're almost done, Prof. We're almost done. We'll finish, Prof. It's 17 minutes past. We'll finish by 1:30. Okay. So maybe
It's
two
3.
comments and then just last comments from each one of the panelists. So if we can take 2 persons, you've been writing so much. I know you want to say something.
No, I have not been writing a novel for those that are thinking I've been writing a novel. But I've been noting, I was particularly intrigued by the reference again to myself by Prof. Because earlier on, when Prof. Mtsombonkhulu was talking, I actually wrote about a word that says amazemtit. And it's a word that is commonly used in isiZulu, in KZN. And it has its originality in the dualness of Christianity and traditional practice. So when the missionaries arrived, they actually started pitting communities against each other and say, these ones, if you get converted into Christianity, you will actually be exempted from being a maqaba, meaning like you're unhidden in a way. And then amaqaba will remain doing traditional practices and traditional rituals. And this, if you go to KZN, I'm speaking on behalf of KZN because that's where I grew up, it's such a divide. I used to, at some point, work for the Catholic Bishops' Conference. And I used to go to bishops' houses and around the country to do development work. Like it's a stone throw away, amaqaba that side, the exempted this side, to a point that even access to education and health was based on your exemptedship. And for me, this continues. So back then it was exempted. So there are today things that also are within the religion and tradition and culture things that disallow or permit you. So I am very worried with that fact that it is not only based on the on colonialism, but we have also created our own things. I will give you an example. So in KZN again, when the cow is slaughtered and there's umsebenzi, which is a ritual, there is meat that is going to be given to particular groups. There is meat that you will never, even if you like and cry and do anything, that you will never get if you don't have a child as a woman. Even if you love, cry, and do anything, you'll never get that piece of meat because you don't have a child. And no one ever comes closer to you to ask, are your eggs right? Is his sperms right? The assumption is that your eggs are wrong. And you get punished by the whole community. Msinga and most of the rural areas, there's even a wearing dress-ups that shows these ones have children, these ones are married, these ones are, yes. And these are the things that colonialists did not give us. But it's things that we have created to include and exclude. So I also want us to bring this conversation into those spaces. Who are we excluding and who are we including? Just by our practices across religion, tradition, and culture. Because, yeah.
I am very much encouraged by Dr. Marcel. Oh, is it on? Yes, I am very much encouraged by Dr. Marcel and Prof. Ndenda. I told Prof. Ndenda yesterday, I relate to most of the things she says because my life has been like that, controversial. And like Elizabeth said, we need the elders to show us that we must continue to do what we called for, because whatever God calls for, He provides for. This year, the 30th of August, I will hosting a celebration for the church, calling it Preserving the Remnant, because the church that I'm pastoring was found by men, but due to the course of time, it's like God removed all of them. And the one they fought me, I am the leader of the church now. So all of them are coming on the 30th of August to the celebration, where I am calling it celebrating the remnant. God preserved the remnant. He preserved me. They all fought me throughout the courses. So there's something wrong with me, but I stood firm to what God is telling me. And the program I'm doing on Radio Atlantis on a Sunday morning, I am challenging all the things the church don't want to talk about. Those are the things I am talking about every Sunday morning for 22 years. So with you guys today, I feel fueled to just go on and to continue what God has called me for. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Esther. I want to, before we close, I'm going to leave the closing remarks to you. Oh, is there more comments? Okay, all right. But then we're going to, because of the we want to give the panelists just for closing remarks from the panelists.
Caroline, I know the panelists are very important people, and I would like the people to interact.
Okay.
You know,
I'm
Miss
just
Awadi-
worried about time.
It's fine.
It's 25 past 12.
Yeah, it's
this
fine.
is supposed to, no, it's not okay.
Oh.
It's supposed to end at 12, you know,
Okay.
and 12:30. Where does it say 12:30? Is it 12:30? Okay. I'm sorry. I thought we were supposed to be 12.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. So,
So-
we have a little time. then.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was just very moved also by Prof. Ndende in when you called women to actually teach or correct each other. I think for a very long time I've been, I was burdened with a mentoring woman who just at home, my sisters. Whatever I've learned, I wanted to just share with them. And I think one of the things that I felt landed was when my younger sister got married to a Zulu guy, and the way she came back to us, to me in particular, I feel there is something in that. And then how do we take it forward when we as women must come to the place of correcting each other. You know, I've divorced, and then I've married again. And when I brought my husband into the space, I could see, because he was known, there was also almost not knowing how to receive him. I kept bringing him. And I felt I'm not going to explain him too much because he's with me. Trust me for maybe how you know me, but also trust that what I did in the past was maybe a proof that I was not going to stay for myself when it wasn't safe and okay. So I think one of the silent lessons I've learned and also wanted to teach was to correct myself and then correct the women around me. So thank you for that, because I think us correcting each other becomes a very crucial thing, very critical. Thank you.
Thanks, Susie.
I was not going to say anything, but I think I'm tempted. Thank you, Prof. I think I'm also sitting here, a product of the Rainbow Nation, in the true sense of the Rainbow Nation, because I was raised by a family that was mixed masala, let me call it like that. So it was a black family from Swazi descent, Zulu descent, Xhosa descent, and I was then taken in as a they guardianed me at the age of about 10 years old. I went to stay with them. So I'm a product of, growing up in Durban as well. I used to stay in Natal, Cape Town, Joburg, and so I'm listening, to this narration of, and always, and for me, what the challenge was that because of, being identified as a colored, the thing of when especially Gugulethu. I think Gugulethu was the worst, until I open my mouth and I speak Xhosa, and then I'm okay. But, just from the onset when they used to look at me, because the assumption was you are colored, so what do you do? Even the police in the apartheid era, when me and my cousin, we looked the same, by the way. When we came to Athlone with the bus, there was no roadblocks. So we went back, pre-apartheid, we went back and then there was a roadblock. Then they got into the bus and like, the two of you, get out, you don't belong here. And we looked at each other, fantasy and they're like, I was like, we stay in Gugulethu. So I think, I'm sitting with all of this, I'm sitting with even the people that raised me, because they're affluent now, because I always say to people, politics, we grew politics. We were raised in politics. So we didn't know it was going to be what it is now. And I think for a person, because of where I come from and because of my background, because of my mom that was an alcoholic, so this person made a very defamatory remark to me, in a jokey way. We were in Joburg, in a retreat, and she's like, dronk Els is a kind. And I'm like, and like, remembering me by who my mom was. And I think those are the kinds of conversations that we need to, the other space, and I think this is a safe space, the other space that we need to really also look at ourselves very critically is the space of where we are in as activists, especially as women. The pull-her down syndrome, the stamping each other down, and it's not healthy, because at the end of the day, we're not supposed to be in competition. We're supposed to be, complementing the work that we're doing. Yeah. And I'm glad that, that we have, saying that we're challenging Saffi, to take it forward. So yeah, there's many other things that I want to share. But I also lastly want to say that this thing of the gun shooting is a new trend amongst the black young women here, especially in Cape Town, in the black areas. Yes, there's videos going around how they're shooting the guns. The gangs in the Manenberg, for example, has got a long history of, recruiting women. So there are women even now sitting on corners because it's gang fight, being on the watch. Thank you.
Thank you, Patsy. Anyone else? Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Thank you for your contributions, and thank you for making, and so anyway, I'm going to leave that to Elizabeth to do the thank yous, but I want to, sorry, Pastor? Yes. Of course.
Good morning, everyone. May I, on behalf of male patriarchs, and especially in relation to the church, apologize on behalf of the clergy to every woman who had not been valued in their humanity and had been perceived as lesser. I'm not too sure the details, but what I do know is that when God created, He created as co-equals. I'm convinced and I'm convicted. I do understand that our strengths might be different, but the helpmate that He had placed alongside is equal, if not greater. And so allow me to take this moment to apologize for the pain, the rejection, the trauma upon trauma that you've had to brave. Today I want to affirm you that you have been created in the image and in the likeness of God. I'm still convinced that rib is of greater quality and substance than of dust. Seated here today, I am realizing again, and I love the aspect of being completely devoted to our call as my Savior had modeled, and assuming the sacred responsibility with all of its complexities. I'm seated here today not being ignorant of the aspect of relationships, my reality, my realization, but then also the potential of restoration. As a carrier of good news, a person of the cloth, I can go on as in whatever titles we give it. I'm found in this that I do not have control over the behavior of others. I also do not have control over how others respond or react. I only have control over my response when people do come. There is hope. There is hope. And I want to affirm everyone within this room for being carriers of hope. The map of our past is the pathfinder to our destiny. Thank you for being destiny carriers.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, Pastor. I receive that apology. Thank you. I want to hand over to, you want to go first? That last comments?
Thank you very much for that. However, I'm going to challenge you to grow that message with every young boy sitting in your church, and to use your pulpit as the instrument to both women and men. So, but thank you for the graciousness. I think that's, and thank you for inviting me in this space today. Okay, thanks, ma'am.
Thank you very much. There are two comments here. I want to start with yours. It's a pity that it happened along the history that people racialized the name Ilaw. Because if you look at the history of the Khoi, one of the Khois, his name was Lao. Hence now amongst my people, when they are invoking their ancestors, they will say, Dili Lao. I mean Xhosa people, the Sukwini, and so on and so on. The Lao was one of the living people then. But now, I don't know how they racialized it to mean a certain group, to refer to a certain group. I don't know. And I challenged one of the Sukwinis. I said, guys, why are you now diverting? Because your clan names were like this and that and that. But now, proudly, they are saying, that means I fight with my fist. And that means the jail is where I shop. But it's not supposed to be like that. Yes, that's how they invoke. You see? Now, I don't know. So it was not like that. It's only now. That is why it is important for us, again, to go to our histories. And coming to you, Manob, it's true even with us, as the Xhosas, we have, well, people must read Philip Meyer, Townsman or Tribesman, and many others, where he makes this difference, that when some people were converted, they were made to undermine this, to say they are illiterate, they are pagan, amakaba, that means those who smear ochre, and so on and so on. And these amakaba didn't keep quiet. They fought back. And they said, you are untrustworthy. Because if people are saying, that's why sometimes they don't trust me, because I was brought up in a Christian home. They don't trust me, some of them, because I was born by Amaqoboka. Uqoboka, you know, if I pour water here, it will remain here. But if I can open a hole here, the water will flow out. So you can't trust this again. So Amaqoboka are people with a hole. So these, they said, the Amaqoboka. So there is still that mentality. That is why I'm saying we need to decolonize it now. There's still that mentality. There are so many stories, the cattle killing, the Ntsikanas, and so on and so on. So again, it's the conflict between the converts and the non-converts. Coming to the one on barrenness. Yesterday, it says that I fell short of vocabulary, and I felt that men are going to think that I'm insulting them. But I'll show you today. When I said, women are strong, men are weak. The only strength for men is the physical one. Hence, they are even abusing that. Why do I say so? If you go to our communities, if I'm married to him and there's no child, it's me who is wrong. Otherwise, with him, he is fine. And what our grandmothers did not tell us, because they know that the male side is weak. So if now he could know that he is the one who is barren, he may do many things. He may even kill himself and so on and so on. So they always covered them. That is why yesterday, you remember, I mentioned a song that so Zendo Teza Kwenyilala, I won't go. And so what happened? The mother-in-law would say, hey, Makoti, go and collect firewood there. Makoti would know when to collect firewood is to meet somebody, because it may, the mother-in-law would
suspect that maybe it's her son, but it will be covered. But with me, if it's me, it has been discovered that he has got a child somewhere. If it's me, immediately, they will say, take a second wife. You know, with me, I'm not covered. But with him, I must go secretly and have this affair. And that is why yesterday I told you that a child born by a married woman belongs to her husband. So he will be very proud to think that is his child, only to find that it's not his child. One example that you are going to laugh, because we are clan-based, when the child is sick, is crying, you would say, Tula, so you call all the ancestors. Now, I asked him which clan he belongs to. He told me that he's Mawao. And then I will say, Tula Mawao, Tula Mpinga, Tula Mtomtwana. But the child keeps on crying. Then the mother-in-law will say, hey, Matamin, that's my clan name. Go outside. Behind the heart. And I will, University, he agrees with me, I will understand. So that child, I got it from Tatu Umpan. So then I will start now calling his clan names, and the child will keep quiet. But he doesn't know. Well, okay, so Miss quiet, or maybe she was feeling the heat and so on and so on and so on. So that's the problem. That is the problem. So because they are weak, they are always protected. Is one other example. You know, in our tradition, because women from gender commission, they don't know that if you are married as a daughter-in-law, married to him, I am not going I'm not going to shake hands when I'm greeting hands with his age group and with the big brothers and with all these fathers. I won't do that. It is regarded as a hlonipa, as a respect custom. And also, with his younger brother, I can shake hands. What is strange, with his grandfather, I won't respect. Something is wrong now. Why respecting the father, the brothers, not the young ones, and not the grandfather? Again, it's the prevention of incest. Because with our tradition, it's not allowed to have an affair with somebody who's younger than yourself. So with his brother, younger brother, obviously, I won't be having anything. But with his age group and the older ones, my hand the blood is still warm. So once I shake the hands, something may go wrong downwards with him. But with his grandfather, because the dogs are no longer barking, so I can shake him, I can bathe him, and so on and so on. So we must understand, analyze these restrictions, these traditions, why this and why not this, and so on and so on. So that is why I'm saying we must teach each other. That is why I'm having problems with gender commission sometimes, because these young ones, they don't know these things. They just come galloping, whopping to say African culture is suppressive because of that and that. So I'm saying we need another conference to talk about this culture now. Yes, talk about it. I'm not defensive, because even myself, I'm suffering. I'm not defensive. One guy from Port Elizabeth said, hey, God, I know God has got no mistakes. But there is one mistake that God did, is to make Mamumdende a woman and not a man. And I said, I'm very happy to be a woman. Yes, so because I'm strong, I'm supposed to be a man and not a woman. So there are those things I'm suffering, even myself. Thank you, I can talk the whole thing.
Thank you, Prof. Mdende. I'm going to hand over to Prof. Mutombo for some last remarks. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much, first of all, for inviting me. I just want to also say something I already said yesterday. As men, we cannot do these things as doing favor to women. Women can defend themselves. Our approach is that from the point of view of Ubuntu or Ubuntu, if I abuse somebody, I destroy humanity within myself. That's the approach. It's not doing favor to anyone. And also coming out from the spirit of family, Jama. I think many men, if you are raised properly, you are protective of your sister and your mother. You do not want anyone abusing your mother. It's just to take that same spirit, now apply it to other women. If I look at another woman or girl as my mother or my sister, then it's easier from my own point of view to extend that respect to all other women. So just to say that's one of the perspectives that we use in addressing these issues. Mhm. Thank you again. And it's 3:45 here. I'm going to sleep.
Thank you
I
so
have
much,
class
Prof.
in the
Thank
morning.
you, Prof.
Thank you, thank you,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Mdende.
Thank you.
Mutombo, we're gonna have to get you to come to Cape Town. Because this
Yes.
conversation, you know, so at least I wanted you to also meet the people. I know we've been talking a lot about you coming and interacting. And so thank you for making both yesterday and today possible. So we pray
Thank
that
you.
God will give you great capacity as you go into your day, and that when you rest, when you go and sleep now, that you will actually sleep as if you are sleeping a full 8 hours, that you will get the rest that your
Thank
body
you.
and your brain needs. So when you wake
Thank-
up, the normal time, you will be fully recovered and be able to do your day's work. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Mhm.
you. Apologize. Okay. No, he's not. I know him. I know other things. Okay, so he's not gonna disturb anyone. Oh, maybe, I don't know, but maybe because a lot could have happened since yesterday. You mean? So please apologize to whoever you're going to whoever you're going to disturb, but you're not disturbing anyone. Just go sleep. You know.
But by the way, I was happy to hear our pastor here apologize on behalf of all men, because here's the thing: people will say, "Oh, I'm okay. I'm not raping anyone. I'm not doing no." But there are some privileges that people have as men, as white, as such and such. It's good to be aware of those and not just blame people. Oh, why is she complaining? Why is this one and that? So I really enjoyed you apologizing on behalf of all of us. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Prof.
Thank you so much. Have a good
Thank you.
night's rest. And then
Thank you.
so you are released. You are free to go to
Thank you.
bed. Thank you.
Yes.
And so just on behalf of Saffi, it's really Saffi's Theological Advisory Council on Gender-Based Violence, part of our program that has been organizing yesterday and today. And special acknowledgement to Dr. Marcel Lont, my forever mentor, and Mam Njoli Mdende, my forever spiritual leader, actually. So, so thank you so much for your time and your wisdom. You know, time, they say, is currency. So thank you for your wisdom. And Caroline, I appreciate your Kala's Foundation is important in terms of also helping, you know, we're holding each other accountable because we're not blindly doing the work that we are doing. And so thank you for your presence and your life and your radicalism. But there's a depth of spirituality that I always feel with the way that you are radical and confront and bring truth into spaces where it doesn't want to be heard. I really sense always the depth of your spirituality and your calling in that. So thank you so much for co-facilitating with me. It was a lovely experience for me. And then just to each and every one, Nehemiah Bible College or Institute, we are in conversation with them also around some of the accreditation work that Saffi is leaning into. Just each one of you, Pastor Esther, Bishop Mpande, Pastors Natasha and Pastor Adrian, they are pastors that has been journeying with Saffi over the years, and so this is basically part of the ongoing, strengthening your capacity, bringing you into these spaces. So you give us a lot of hope when we see how you are just radically doing different things, also from that deep space of conviction and what is required now. And so the same with Sikolile, the police officer, she was warrant officer. Susan, thank you for you and representing everything that you represent in this space. Nita, as the board, but also the Eastern faiths have an incredible way of helping the Abrahamic faiths, because the Abrahamic faiths is baie wil net is wild, hulle wil net. But there's something really incredible about the resources that you bring to us to ground us, calm us down, so that we can actually properly better listen to what God is saying to us now, and then we reach into our faith, and from that place do what we do. So thank you, Nita and the Brahma Kumaris community for your contribution to us. Patsy, thank you for your work. Evermore, thank you for your work. Martin and Ashwin, who is the team at the moment with Saffi, thank you for your work. I know it's an ongoing learning, but you've been doing great. Thank you so much. And then also to Carson, thank you, Carson, for the respectful way in which you are just holding, the space for us. Sound is important. When you can hear sound, then it's a problem. And so you have not heard the sound, we have heard what people were saying. And so thank you, thank you, thank you. God bless you. Thank you to each one of us, all right? There is, I think, what is it? There's an evaluation form. We always need your feedback. It's very important to us. We do have lunch is included, so after this, we can. I think it is. What room is it? Just here? Just double check. Ashwin, where we are having lunch. We missed the tea, but there's still tea there. No, we're gonna do straight to lunch. Yeah, just tell them we're coming for lunch now. But there's also tea and coffee, which you can, if you need a cup of that. Thank you. Just a few minutes for the evaluation, and then we are. Oh, we need a group picture before everybody goes. Thanks.
Recording stopped.